Good morning. Hello. Today some new information concerning investigation of megalithic site on Bukowa Góra near Dabrowa Górnicza. After a year of exploration and laboratory investigation of materials, I like to say some new informations. If you like to listen, welcome. So the site is localized on the top of hill. This is location of place, and site was divided on geometrical squares with data, and before exploration site looked like this. I thought it's probably natural, and it was important find criteria, features deciding about this, that this site is not natural but is anthropogenic. So after exploration, archaeological exploration, appeared some phenomenon, some features confirming anthropogenic genesis of the place. So this investigation confirmed that a layer of blocks overlaying young sediments on top of this hill. These blocks are of various thickness, and under these blocks there are foundations, there are specially prepared places, and these blocks, slightly irregular blocks, were founded on special places. Together with this observation, we discovered holes, post holes filled up with sand. Samples were taken for microscopic analysis. This next post hole filled up with the sand, and next. And what is interesting, that material dug for preparation of these post holes were removed out, and some blocks are laying on this material from post holes. This means that post holes are older than blocks. This means that before megalithic structures, before construction of these megalithic structures, was human activity connected with the preparation of post holes. It means before megalithic stage was done there on this top of this Bukowa Góra hill, was done was human activity. They constructed probably some structures made of wood. What it was is difficult to explain now. And there are holes, trenches dug by archaeologists, and we may observe the sequence of sediments. This is soil with grey organic matter, and rubbish made of fragments of dolomites, diploporic dolomites, upper Triassic, and with stones of various size, starting from small up to this size. And trench number 9, situation look like this. It's well seen that blocks are founded in special foundation places, and this human activity before structures, these megalithic structures, is seen, for example, as holes like this with step edges. You see, this is natural primary material, and there is material filling up holes which were dug in form of steps. It's on the next side. Why it look like this? What was the reason? We don't know. This will be tested next season. Analysis of block foundation. As I said, there are these specific post holes filled up with fine sand, white. Were taken samples for mineralogical examination, samples from top up to bottom of these holes, and material from surrounding area. On the basis of this examination was done reconstruction, were done drawings showing reconstruction of phenomenon. The primary situation, gravels with red clay and 2-3 layers sometime, and next in this material were dug post hole filled up with sand, and next was covered with the empty archaeological layer. And empty, this means without any objects, archaeological, and layer of soil, organic material. Under the microscopy, samples taken from this post hole look like this, and there are, for example, grains of quartz, some with traces of fire, small pieces of rocks, and this is a large grain of quartz which was in the fire. Deeper we have pure quartz and burnt clay. This means was human activity. The clays present in this post hole, this sand contain small relics of burnt clay in fireplaces, and surrounding material does not contain fired changed thermally grains of quartz, contain aggregates of quartz and rare fragments of rocks unknown at this area, imported not by humans but by nature to this place. There is next post hole present in trench number 8, and again reconstruction of phenomenon at this place. And what we see that after digging, after preparation of this post hole, the material was removed out, and the block of dolomite, diploporic dolomite, is covering this structure. This means blocks are younger than these post holes. Next photos of post holes there. Maybe these post holes were used for the preparation of megalithic structure, but up to now we completely don't know how it was. This is necessary to confirm by future excavation. and traces of human activity during time of megalithic construction, foundation of the blocks. Under these megalithic blocks, there are various interesting structures. For example, there is old trench, small canal, natural most probably, but up to now we don't know. We didn't find any archaeological objects at this material. This old canal is filled up with the reddish clays material representing weathering sediments developed on carboniferous rocks, carbonate rocks, and this is primary natural sediment type of small gravels containing small pieces of dolomites. This is interesting because we have megalithic blocks 1 and 2, and under these blocks we have foundation prepared, specially placed. As you see, this material is completely other, and this foundation was dug in these fine gravels, and this foundation was in form of steps, and directly under these blocks there is a thin layer of clay. So it means that these blocks were not were not put irregularly. This area before preparation of this foundation of these blocks were specially prepared. Is seen as following structures, and were taken samples from this material present under the blocks, because I suppose that if they prepared this foundation, maybe they left something in this material, and of course it's possible to discover in fine fraction using microscopic methods. So were taken samples, coarse material, thick material were removed, and small grains were taken under the microscopy, and under the blocks we discovered small fragment of teeth with enamel, and fragment of sponga bone, fragment or corticoidal bone, burnt grains of quartz, small charcoals, and aggregates, heated aggregates of made of clay and grains of quartz. This material probably from fireplaces. So before foundation of megalithic blocks, human activity was developed at this area. They did something, and there are analyses of material from object number 4, from foundation of megalithic blocks, sample 6.1, and you may see what is there. Amount of anthropogenic material is very small. Next sample taken deeper under this megalithic block at object number 6, and in coarse grains we have mostly rounded material, grains of dolomites rounded, slightly rounded, and about 2% of grains of dolomites, diploporic dolomites, of sharp shape. This means that these dolomites were crushed for what we don't know. And quartz and fragments of dolomites under the microscope, and going deeper under these blocks we have only rounded, slightly rounded grains of dolomite, and there are completely no sharp edges grains, as you see this material. And in fine fraction 0.1, 0.06 millimeter, we have again fragments of dolomites and pure, not heated by temperature changed grains of quartz. Doing a reconstruction of phenomenon present before construction of these megalithic blocks, we observe first stage as natural surface, later first stage with traces of first digging filled up with the reddish clays. This is this. Next stage of filling foundation under the blocks, and next stage it's preparation of the surface on which the blocks were put. And next stage look like this. Blocks are marked like this, and foundation is under, and this is of course reconstruction and natural photo again for the comparison. Megalithic block showing traces of work using knapping techniques. First of all, in this site there is a lot of rounded stones, very big one, it's about 1 meter and more in diameter, and these blocks were prepared as circles using knapping technique. If you look carefully, there are traces of knapping, so there are megaliths. We don't know for what. Maybe they were the basis for columns. We don't know exactly for what, and evidently prepared using knapping technique, anthropogenic. There are some irregular blocks with traces of knapping. We don't know for what. It looks like probably more for as preparation of flakes. They need probably flakes obtained from these blocks, because this is reconstruction and traces of working of those people, and probably it was not the problem of preparation of this big stone, but it was problem to obtain flakes and blades for something. We don't know for what. Of course, these traces are to reason of knapping. And there are other traces probably connected with the work of humans. For what, we don't know. There are not natural features. There are things, there are objects, there are traces made by humans. Next, blocks, traces of work on blocks this surface was prepared, and there was prepared on the block small canal in the form of line. For what, we don't know, of course. In comparison, there are traces of natural cracks in limestones. They look like completely other, and go, of course, deeper to the deeper part of these megalithic blocks. On the surface of blocks, megalithic blocks, there are traces of fire, not very well seen, but there are. Barrows, ceremonial mounds, graves, constructions. Leader analysis, leader observation helped discover many small hills, most probably moats, and these objects are under examination in the nature. It look like these, or these, or these, this. We don't know what they mean, these structures. Probably there are tombs, small tombs, but they were not examined up to now. They were not tested. On some of these structures we observe stones left in staying vertically, or stones making small circles, and of course it's anthropogenic, but what is inside we will examine in next season. Very special and very exciting was object number 5. It's before exploration, it could look like this, and next stage after digging, archaeologists they make small profile, irregular. You see blocks of dolomites are at various positions, staying vertically. And before digging, I took samples from the top of this grave, because it's not typical structure, big, relatively big blocks around, and fine material in the form of material covering the grave. So I took sample and I did examination. Material covering this grave is made contain a lot of crushed dolomites. Sharp edges comes 24% sharp, and its composition of this material from grave. And next sample was taken from the bottom of the grave. Datation, C14 datation are at the moment not very helpful, because we have two groups of data. One is about second millennium after Christ, and next is about 1200 after Christ. Probably material is mixed, so we sent next samples for C14 datation. But during examination of material from this grave, I discovered small grains of small fragments of slugs. We did chemical examination using ADS method. We have analyzed there. Of course, there are aluminum silicates mostly, but it's there are traces of iron, and quantitative analysis show 1.5 more or less amount of iron and potassium, relatively high, 9%, and rest are typical elements of slag. But it's slag, of course. This means we suppose it's an early medieval tomb. At this grave number 6, we discover burnt fragments of sponga bones. This is material from the from about 80 centimeters, 40 centimeters depth of grave number 2, and there are relics of sponga structures. Material is burnt, so it's changed. And we find at the same level fragments of charcoal, burnt wood, and this material is sent now for the datation, for C14 datation. We suppose obtain good results. And again, object number 2, grave number 2, its description what is what, and especially interesting was this stone, present practically at most depth of this grave, and it looks like this. Of course, it's maybe it's natural, but it looks like a rather small old sculpture. This is tendentional. I believe it's impossible that nature will do things like this. And grave number 8, it looks like this before exploration, and red arrow shows place of sampling. As you see, generally it's coarse, it's not very coarse material, and blocks of limestone surrounding this grave. This sample shows that a lot of material is represented by sharp grains of dolomites, and we discovered a small object like this. There is enlarged this object with 2 holes, and on the walls of these holes there are traces of boring. So it's not natural, it's made for something by humans. Together with this object we discovered burnt fired grains of quartz grade, so they were in the reducing atmosphere, they were altered in the reducing atmosphere, and small grains of slags, this is scale, and of course dolomites. Again, burnt quartz, small grain of slag, and aggregates made of clay, quartz, and small grains of dolomites. This is mineral composition of material from grave number 8. As you see, it's about 21% of anthropogenic objects. These burnt grains of quartz, burnt aggregates of clay, and other things. And possible architectonical objects, it's still under the exploration. Now, because of weather and cold temperatures, works are stopped, but we can see the form of concentration of this megalithic blocks. All these phenomenon I show you and I try explain, these forms are of course anthropogenic. Why? For what? We don't know. Form like these stones are laying in form of ellipsoidal of ellipsoid, and this surrounding area is divided with the stone. This material is other than this material. This means something, but we don't know what. And presumed idols, these forms are were discovered at special position in the site. And structure number 9, this is interesting, and big blocks are laying very near one to other, and this is not because of the natural phenomenon. They are specially put at this place for what we don't know. In other orientation, it looks like this. There is stone staying vertically. And what is interesting, there are results of geodesy measurement, geodetic measurement of the surface of the stones. There are points of measuring, and more or less all these stones at all sites are have the surface on the same level. There are differences 1, 2, 3 centimeters higher or lower, but generally they make one level upper surface of stones, but bottom of stones, this bottom parts of stones are on various levels. So some were founded deeper, some were founded not very deep. It means that this level of surface of stones were prepared specially. This one very flat surface of stones were prepared tendentially for what we don't know, but we know how it was done. It was done because the thickness of blocks is various. They found it these blocks at various depth. Some are deeper, some are near to the surface, and they obtain one level, one flat surface. And very interesting are flint artifacts. Some represent Paleolithic and some Neolithic, and maybe even some are of Bronze Age. They were collected very near to this megalithic site, and there are drawings. I will not describe detailedly various forms, etc. This is not my business. It's men specializing in flints. There are various forms, various cores, various flakes, etc. Patinated, not patinated, and primary flints, and hammerstones, other grinding stones, and you see blades, various blades with retouch. It separates things, but the presence of these forms, flint implements, documents that there are some, at this area, there are some much older documents of presence of humans. So, in the summary, we may conclude that this site, known primarily as megalithic site, is composed of, contains many stages of human activity. Very spectacular are these megalithic blocks, but before blocks we have chipped, knapped materials, flints, various, representing probably various stages of occupation, starting from end phase of Paleolithic, Neolithic, and maybe Bronze. It is for investigation. Next, we have stage of post-holes. This stage of activity was before megalithic phase, megalithic stage. And next we have megalithic period with these great blocks. And next we have stage of early middle century, and maybe middle century activity, traces of slugs and graves, etc. So the place is very fascinating. This site is Bukowa Góra is very fascinating, and it's very important not mix all materials or anthropogenic materials, and is important classification of discovered objects to write chronology. It's not very easy. So very simple megalithic site at the first look constitute very complicated object with many stages of human occupation, and each stage of occupation of human activity have to be specially investigated, specially dug, specially described, etc., etc. We will try to continue these works next season in 2023, but all of course depends on many reasons. It depends on weather, on workers, on money, etc., etc. So thank you for listening, and please be interested in these problems, and if we obtain new materials, of course next year I will prepare presentation for you. But it's very important investigation of this megalithic object, especially under these blocks, because there are left some small human remains, not human remains of human activity. And probably this year I like to collect samples from spaces between blocks, during human activity at so-called megalithic stage. Maybe some small objects fall down to these spaces between blocks, and we will collect material, will look if there is something or not. So thank you again, have a nice day, and welcome for next meetings. Bye bye, thank you very much.